Welcome to Mitchell Levy Presents, where I dive into the essential elements of clarity and credibility. Hosted by global credibility expert Mitchell Levy, today's episode offers invaluable insights to make you think and act more credibly. Join us as we explore living your values, boosting your credibility, and leading purposefully. Hi, Mitchell Levy, global credibility expert, and I haven't had a good opportunity to do this since I was out of country for 5 weeks. So I haven't had a good opportunity to be part of leaders living their values in at least 6 or 7 weeks. So I'm excited. And I actually have 2 this week. But this particular one, actually, they're both going to be special. So I don't want to put Mary down, but we'll say Anik Malenfant, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's quite a pleasure. It's lovely to reconnect with you, Mitchell. Our conversations are always so fun and inspiring.
Oh, right back at you. And so I did mention your name. I might have gotten it close. I hope so. But for our audience, who are you?
So Anik Malenfant, you got it pretty close. I'll give you credit for that. I'm an inner work strategist. So where I really thrive is holding space for successful soul-led women who desire to feel more empowered in their work and in their lives. And so my unique zone of genius is recognizing the patterns that hold people back from creating the lives that they desire. So that's my, in a nutshell, what I do. Who I'm as a person is mother of one, nature enthusiast, amateur astronomer. So I love my me time with my telescope, and avid beekeeper. So I definitely have a broad spectrum of interests. But what I notice is all of them bring me back to observing patterns. So whether I'm in the beehive, reading the hive, or I'm watching the stars and noticing the patterns there in the constellations, I really love to kind of live what I do.
It's lovely. So actually, that's lovely a lot. I love to live what I do. Huh, that's an interesting quote.
Mm-hmm.
You said mother of one. So let's zero in on that. Tell me about the being a mother of one. What does that mean, and who's your child? And
Best job ever. So my favorite role is being a mother of this spunky 12-year-old who is such a beautiful light. And I know every parent will feel that same way about their child. She was designed to fit in with my husband and I. We are really grounded and spiritually focused, and she's like our yoga buddy. She's our meditation buddy. She really is so open and intuitive, which my husband and I both are. And one of the things that I really love about her is the open communication and the innocence and the play and the joy that she brings into our lives. And also the lessons. Like, this kid is wildly wise beyond her years. And so she's always reflecting back to us what we need to learn, grow, and expand on. So she's kind of like the whole package. And honestly, she's the best thing in my life.
nice. What? Give me an example. By the way, I'm tracking 1,000%. Ours is a boy who's 27, and very similar in every front. But give me an example of something recently where she either directly or indirectly taught you both a lesson.
Oof. Recently, I'm going to say she teaches us every night. So last night we were making a commitment to spending more quality time. And so one of the things that we decided last night is, let's have a nice fire. Let's do some yoga in front of the fireplace. And we were getting caught up in the to-do list. Right after supper, you got to clean up, you got to do this. And she's like, hey, I thought we were making a commitment to spending some more quality family time, and it's getting there. So she was really kind of like reeling us in. And so she's just, like, and we do this back and forth between each other's, but one of the things that's really important in our family is living by our core values, which is why I love so much that you're having this conversation. And so for me, what that means is the core values that I have in my family should equate to the core values I have in my business, which should equate to the strategy, to what I'm choosing, to the policies, to the playbook, to my workflows, to what bills, like what expenses I have versus what income I'm creating versus what rules we have in our house. Like for me, it all boils down to staying in integrity with those values. And so actually she taught us a value lesson, because my husband and I were getting into our parent mind trap, which is here's all the stuff we have to get done before we go to bed. And we were burning light on the time that she had before she had to go to bed. We had already made that commitment to some quality family time. So she kept us honest and in integrity with that.
It's funny. Now that as soon as this is done, when the team that does the post-end processing picks up the clips and starts sharing what you did, what you said, what you just said was so amazingly powerful. And so I wanted to put you out there and just sort of go, your statement was, and this is why I do these interviews, by the way, and a lot of times why I focus on something outside of work, because what I want to hear is the values that you say, or the activities that you say you do outside, are in alignment with what you do for your work. And you just went right in for the end result. I think we could be done. So thank you so much. It's been a great interview.
Skip to the last question.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Okay. If that's the case, give me an example then where your husband sort of reminded the two of you, or reminded you of something going on.
Well, actually, so on Saturday, my daughter and I we stayed up a little bit later than we should have, and we have a family commitment to health. So Saturday morning is our gym morning. And so time's a ticking, and my husband's like, all right, ladies, like, let's get to it. We're going to the gym at 9:00. Get your poop in a group. Let's go. And so he's actually really good at keeping us consistent and on track with those kind of like structured routines. Because my daughter and I are really free flow, and he's very rigid in how he does things. So I think it's really interesting, because each and every one of us has a different way that we keep each other really accountable to those things. My daughter and I will help my husband be more playful and go with more flow, and he'll help us to really stay structured and stay consistent and on track with some of those things. So that's when actually Terry, my spouse, Saturday morning, he's like, all right. And we were going to go. It's not that we were skipping out on it. But we always have a better day when we go at a certain time, because then it leaves us more time later in the day to do the other things that we enjoy doing.
Oh, it's lovely. Okay. Thank you for that. I was thinking to myself, I wonder how much you bring you bring Terry, your husband, or your daughter, into your business in terms of supporting what you do in your client work. Is there overlap there, or tell me what do you do with that?
Well, my husband is actually a sound healer, so him and I will co-create things sometimes. And actually, one of the core principles that I live and breathe by actually came from Terry. Years ago, he shared with me, he says, it really boils down to one thing. How do you want to feel? Or how do you feel? How do you want to feel? And what needs to change so that you can feel that way? So for me, that's always my 3-step process to getting from point A to point B, because your emotional state shows you where you're at, where you're thinking, what your actions are. It's such an indicator, such a great point of entry. And our daughter has actually participated in some of the workshops that we've done, because she's just in it. So I've got her popping in and helping out in passing out, like workbooks and pens to our classes. But I think more importantly than that is For us, something that's really important to stay in integrity is walking the talk, right? And because both of us, inner work is at the core of how we show up for the external world, for our clients and in our business, we have a lot of open communication in our family about, this is what I know this is what you said, but this is what I'm hearing through my story. Here's the story that's going on in my head, and here's how I'm feeling about it. So one of the really core elements where we all come together is really staying true to our individual need to do the inner work to be a better cohesive team together. So I almost feel like we bring our work into our family, and because we're doing our work individually, it actually allows us to be better practitioners and business owners in our work. So I feel like there's a back and forth that happens there.
Mm,
I
man,
don't know how you would do it otherwise. And I'll tell you, I
so
think this is so important to
oh
me
wait.
because
Hold on one second. I'm going to interrupt. The I hear you. I don't know how I would do it otherwise. Love that statement.
yeah.
And the end is that's the otherwise is where most people live.
Hmm. Well, that's where I used to live. I used to work on the stock market, and I had two separate lives, and it was two different personalities. And I always felt disconnected, and I couldn't figure out why. And when I left finance, I moved into living more of a holistic approach, but I didn't realize it just meant me being the same me no matter where I am, and carrying for those same values no matter what situation I find myself in.
Now, what was interesting to me is for many people during COVID, we got to see their personal lives.
Hmm.
For many people, they recognize that the work life, which involved maybe a 2-hour commute each way to work, wasn't required and wasn't an issue. And what happened is we COVID, hit the stage where we can now get back together with other humans, and and people wanted to go back to the way things were. And a lot of times, the executives of large companies say, "Hey, we need to have you in house. We need you back here." And so, tell me, how are you feeling about that when people are forcing an environment where we're trying to put people back? If it was great to
Hmm.
be able to be the same person everywhere,
I
but
love that you
now
asked
we're
that question because it's one that I've actually been pondering quite a bit the last few weeks, because it's all about strategic execution. And one of the core things that corporations across the globe are really focusing on is squeezing more productivity. And so what they're looking at is, how do we improve workflows? How do we get AI implementation? How do we automate? And all of those things are beautiful tools, but a lot of the tools aren't applied to human beings. They're applied to machines and trying to get more productivity into a machine. So the question that I started asking instead is not how can we get more productivity out of a human, but instead of how can we create an environment that supports that person to be in their zone of genius where they're naturally more productive. And I think the should you come back to work or should you not come back to work depends on a very individual position based question. So I think that's a question that every CEO or COO should be looking at, going, that particular employee or this particular department, how can they be more productive in their unique zone of genius? Some are going to get way more stuff done when they're at home because they get distracted by the gossip at, the water station or at work, for example, where other people will do much better in a team environment. So I think it's the same issue that we had before COVID that is trying to recreate itself, is trying to rubber stamp, okay, this is what needs to happen for everyone. And there's no unique recognition that this particular person will do better in this environment. So I think we need to start asking a different question, is not how can we make people more productive, but what is the environment that that person needs to have an optimal productivity. So I think we need to change the conversation. So that's been, I guess that's my stance.
I well, you're now moving into the boundaries of the dissertation that I'm working on right now. Um, and it's a concept I call executive abundance. And
Mm-hmm.
it's bringing abundance to five stakeholder groups, not just investors. Because
Mm-hmm.
the as you mentioned, the rules today is simply focused on, well, how do we make everyone more productive so we can make more money, right? And then we rubber stamp processes across the whole world. Uh, and the answer is, well, the first group of people, actually, the truth is the first group of people we need to take care of is ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
in our family, right? So you got that. The second group of people is, so that's the internal operating system for you as a human. But then the next internal operating system is for you as an organization, which are your employees. That's a great question. As you're talking to leaders, what do they say when you ask that? By the way, this will be part of, I'll start bringing this in, and give me something physical I could quote somewhere, and I'll bring you into my dissertation. So thank you. Um,
I'm not
what
surprised. You and I seem to always be on the same wavelength, so I love that.
And thank you, because, well, here's the simple part, right? I'll say this, and you'll go, ah, okay. So if you, here, let me put this here. I don't normally do this, but so if you actually are good yourself and you take care of your employees will take care of your customers. If you take care of your customers, they will take care of your investors,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and then of course, you need to make sure that the overall community is taken care of. And so those are the five stakeholders that I'm
Mm-hmm.
focused on. And I love your statement, by the way. Great thought on the statement of, hey, we need to make sure that we optimize how each unique employee can work better. And so that's an interesting thought. Okay, you and I will have more conversation on that. When you talk to leaders, what do they say when you say that? What are you hearing back?
I'm hearing two different stories. So, one lens is what is the system or protocol or AI that I need to purchase to figure this out, which is all about what expense do I need to make to get more productivity. And then the other side is they're already hand holding and bending over backwards for their employees. And they're like, I don't think I can be more accommodating. And so they're either on one or two sides of the fence of overdoing it with too much structure and too much everything's too homogenized, like everything applies to everybody. And the other side is they've made so many exceptions to try to accommodate all the people that they don't even really have a clear policy or workflow or process. So they're usually on these two different extremes. And one of the things that I love that you said, because it really speaks to how I look at that, is it's all about synergy, right? So it's about finding that middle ground where you're not overcompensating for an employee that's just never going to be productive because they're in the wrong role or they're in the wrong environment. And the other side where they're squeezing that lemon so hard there's nothing left but rind, and saying like you're not going to squeeze more out of those people. So like the realistically, like trying to get more productivity out of those humans, out of those 8 hours, is like you're already maxed out. And so are the metrics reasonable? Are you focusing on products and services that are your highest margin? So it's not necessarily squeezing more productivity, but increasing or improving your strategy if you're trying to expand into your growth, because you're only going to squeeze so much out of people. Like that's just, there's a reality. So you can bring them into a higher level of their zone of genius where what they're creating for you has a higher value versus quantity over quality. Does that make sense? So it's like maybe not necessarily more, but better quality is what you need to look at. So I always look at it from that middle ground perspective and being like, are you giving too much or are you squeezing too much? And what's that happy medium? Because people who love going to work and feel pride in what they do are naturally productive. So how can you do that? So this person here is like, I hate my job, but this guy has been super nice to me and he's always accommodating, so I feel obligated to keep working here. Or I don't want to look around and see what I would actually be better at. Sometimes you got to cut those people loose. Whereas sometimes you have to look at yourself and being like, all right, am I being unrealistic on what I'm expecting from these people? And maybe I need to be a better strategist in creating more quality and not so much more quantity.
So I love your
So I
thinking
guess my
process.
answer is both.
Yeah, no, I
Like,
love your thinking process. And let's do the and.
mhm.
The and is typically the leader you're talking to has not been trained in thinking more holistically like this. Um, typically, they've been
Mm.
trained,
Oh, they
obviously,
absolutely, yeah.
in one way or the other, right? So,
Mhm.
so, and when you first start off on this path, it doesn't immediately produce results.
Yeah, but I have a finance background because that's what I was doing before I left and I did this work. So for me, it's all about, I know where the numbers are. Let's show them the part that they care about. I'm like, here's the money you're wasting on the employee that is never going to be able to show up for you in the way that you need. And here is the money that you're missing out on because you're not strategizing for quality over quantity. So it's really about helping, because at the end of the day, their job is to primarily keep the business productive and profitable. Otherwise, there's no business for anybody to have a job. So that's always going to be priority number one for the leaders of the organization. So obviously, that's a metric that is going to be top shelf, top of mind, and being like, here, what those two numbers break down to. And when you actually reinvest that amount or actually go grab that untapped potential, here is the opportunity on both sides. So I come to it from a finance perspective of either this is what you're missing out, this is what you're spending, or this is what you're missing out on in potentials revenue.
Hmm.
Because it's, like it or not, it's about the bottom line, because the bottom line is whether or not any of us have a job, right? So
Right,
it's, we
right.
can't forget any of the cogs in the wheel, and it's also about identifying which cog are they most focused on. And if they're calling and asking about productivity, they're looking at their bottom line going, how do I get more for less? And so it's about helping them come to that realization of holistic through the lens that they are accustomed to seeing it, and not trying to get them to see it through my lens. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
What? How long do you think it took you when you were disillusioned with your previous role and your previous life? And how long did it take you to become not necessarily who you are now, but the version of who you are now, which of course by definition gets better every day. But
Mm-hmm.
what sort of transition period? How did you get smacked in the face and go, oh my God, this is not me, and it took me this long to get to the new you?
Well, it took multiple slaps because I I see it as a good, and I'm very determined, but a different way of saying that is also stubborn, right? So I have a lot of conviction in what I do. And so when I was working in finance, I had car accidents, I had fibromyalgia, I had depression, but I'm like, oh, like I was raised by two entrepreneurs, so you put your head down and you grind harder. That's the way through, right? Suck it up and keep moving on. So it actually took me quite a bit of time to actually realize that something was wrong, because I just kept grinning and bearing it. But I remember one pivotal moment that was the catalyst space that actually brought me to where I am today. And it was, I woke up one morning with this elephant of dread on my chest, and I asked this one question. I asked, there has got to be more to life than this. And it's like the floodgates opened. And I would really invite anyone to get curious about what's available to them, because really that's where those cogs started spinning. And within 2 months, my whole life had changed. Now in the moment, I was like, whoa, what is happening? And so opportunities came up, opportunities left, doors closed, doors opened. It happened very, very quickly. Thankfully, I was in a grounded position to be able to handle the transition, but it had been one of those transitions that had been like a long time coming. So as soon as the universe saw that I was open, it was like, all right, buckle up, baby, here we come. And so I really started to, as soon as I got curious, I got very open because I am a lifelong learner. And I started to realize all of these patterns started connecting. So I already had astronomy into my under my belt. So I was already seeing, when you're looking at the constellations, you see the patterns in the stars. I started literally seeing the patterns in the stars in my life and being like, oh, this is how all of this plays out. So within like 6 months, I had done a complete 180 with how I viewed the world. And then it probably took me another 6 months to finally make the decision to leave finance completely and start my holistic company. So it was about a year process, but it was like it felt like a month, because it was all of this new stuff was coming through because I finally had a different lens to see life through. And so really that catalytic moment was when I started asking that question. And then the answers started to reveal themselves to me just one after the other. And then everything from there is just been about how can I incorporate this more? Because the more I lean into it, the better my life gets. The more love I have, the more joy I have, the more connected I feel to myself and my family and my loved ones, the more positive experiences that I get. So I've just been doubling down since then, basically.
Nice. So listen, if this is a human that you want to meet, if you've asked yourself, and by the way, I've run into so many people who have success, the billionaires, the multimillionaires, and you look at them and go, "You happy?" And they go, "No, what's that?" Right? And they'll ultimately say in a private conversation, there must be more. And to them, more means getting more money and pulling more things, but that doesn't bring happiness. So
Mhm.
if you have decided that Anik is someone you want to talk to, Anik, how's the best way that people should reach out to you?
They can reach me here on LinkedIn, or they can connect with me on my website at masteringascension.com.
Perfect. Thank you. Hey, so based on this conversation, is there a question that you would like to be asked that I didn't ask you?
Hmm. Yes. Yes and no. I guess if I guess one thing for me, and I think you have a very similar framework, but for me it's about the framework that I use that get me from values to execution. Because I think anybody listening is always like, okay, great, this is a great concept, but how do I get from point A to point B? So for me, and everyone's got a different framework, but for me, my framework is your values, which should be at the heart of all things. Your intuitive discernment, which is how you know the difference between right and wrong for yourself, and discernment, which you and I talked about in actually when I had you on the podcast. Um, Energetic alignment. So is it soul sucking or is it soul affirming, which is something that we should always keep checked in. And then the strategic execution is how do you show up in alignment with those first three pillars. So for me, that's really the only thing that I would add is no matter what structure that you use, you should have a clear process for yourself to get from your values to your execution. So then that way you have the framework to support you in moving forward.
Mm. Ah. All right. You just put a chill up and down my spine. What a great response. Thank you so much. And I just gonna say thank you for being you and being the light that you are to shine on those people you do get the pleasure of touching their lives.
My pleasure.
Hey, I just want to say for those in the audience, God, there were so many amazing aha moments, so many clips, so many ideas. Please take the ideas, take the thoughts. If you know someone in your life that needs to watch or listen to this show, please share it with them. Share Anik's cred dust. And I'm going to say thank you so much for joining me in Leaders Living Their Values. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Take care, everyone. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you found value in today's episode. Like, subscribe, and share your aha moments on your preferred platform. Remember, credibility starts with clarity and living your values. Learn more at mitchelllevy.com. Until next time.